entitled stepmother thinks my daughter is hers and threatened to call CPS for stealing her baby because we're moving away to be far from her. My stepmother is strictly prohibited from approaching me and my baby, and I haven't seen my father in 3 months because he refuses to see his granddaughter without his wife. I don't have the best past with my stepmother because when she married my father, she immediately came to see me and my siblings as her children, being very pushy and invasive, and wanting to outdo our mother, who is alive and present in our lives. She is infertile, so she was using us as a replacement for her lack of children. Her obsession with motherhood and being our only mother scared us and drove us away completely. She constantly talked bad about our mom, saying she clearly abandoned us since we didn't live with her, but our mom was always involved in our lives. Personally, I called her every day and she was always there for big events like graduations. My father took her side in all this because he wanted her to be happy. He even went as far as trying to force us to call her mommy, which we all heavily refused. Eventually, our mom got our custody, and we moved across the country. Over the years, and the physical distance, my relationship with them became more tolerable. There were occasional problems, such as the fact that she wanted to be mentioned as a mother in the wedding invitations, or when she tried to adopt my niece after my sister-in-law's death, declaring that my brother was unable to raise his daughter. Then, she started posting photos of my ultrasounds and baby clothes with captions like looking forward to my baby's arrival, or at last entering the journey of motherhood. I scolded her for trying to pretend like my baby was hers, and for posting all those pictures without my permission. I demanded she delete the posts. Her and my father moved to my state and the physical harassment began. She came by my house several times a day to check me, fight with me about what I ate, and set up a complete nursery in her house, telling me that the baby would need to spend the first few days with someone more experienced to take care of him. When we found out it was a girl, she immediately started saying that finally her Christina would come, and how her dream would finally come true. She fully believed this baby was hers, and no amount of telling her that it wasn't was going to solve her delusion. I immediately denied that this would be my daughter's name, and made it clear that she would not be a mother figure to my baby. My stepmother then reminded me that a lot can happen during childbirth, so it was better that my husband and I understood that she and my father were prepared for any eventuality. She tried to guilt-trip me by saying I couldn't possibly be so cruel to deny her the closest thing she'd ever have to a daughter, since I didn't accept being her daughter. After many comments from her, my husband and I decided to take some action in case she tried something. And now, 3 months after my baby was born, my father refuses to visit his granddaughter, even though we live close together, as I don't allow his wife to play mother and daughter with her. I understand that she has frustrated maternal instincts, but my daughter is not her replacement baby. I've realized that my father will never protect his children, especially if it means putting limits on my stepmother. But the straw that broke the camel's back was what happened this morning. My stepmother was in tears at our gate, screaming and begging for my forgiveness, claiming that all she wanted was love, happiness, and that I have no right to deny anything so small to her. First, we politely asked her to leave, but she wouldn't budge and said we couldn't deny her her daughter. I was shocked. I told her she was my daughter and that only made her cry harder. After threatening to call the police, my father finally came and took his wife home. I called my stepfather afterwards to come pick me up because I couldn't handle much more of this. We've packed a few essentials, and the 3 of us will be staying at my mom's house for now. We are also in contact with our attorney, who will refer us to someone who specializes in family status, and we will seek to get a restraining order under our old address. We blocked my dad and stepmother from phones and social media. Unfortunately, this only made the situation worse. My stepmother began to speak ill of me to anyone who would listen about us not letting her visit our daughter, and how we're being cruel when she's only trying to help. Luckily, people were able to see her insanity, and she ended up losing a lot of important people. We're now moving to a more secure place and farther away from her. 5 days ago, my stepmother said that stealing her baby would not go unpunished. She would show to everyone that the 2 of us weren't good parents, and we needed to be prepared for when that happened because she wouldn't give up her baby. The fact that my father did nothing to stop this episode ended up sealing the end of our relationship. I completely cut off contact with my father, and my brothers did the same. My nightmare stepmom sold my late mother's watch to buy a new car for herself, so I'm destroying the car. My stepmother married my dad just a year ago and she is already easily my least favorite person in the entire world. She first came along just a few months after my mother died, and I questioned Dad as to how he could move on so easily. He gave a vague answer, but I remember just before my mother's passing she was starting to get suspicions of infidelity, and now I'm thinking my stepmother was my father's affair partner while my mother was terminally ill. I don't want to believe it, but it's a possibility. My stepmother is not a nice person, and although she is not straight up nasty to me directly, she does everything she can to remove any memory of my mother out of the home and out of my life. The very first thing she did when she moved in was demand all pictures of her be taken down in the house, even in my bedroom. Of course I did comply with this, but my father took her side, which led to me taking the pictures and placing them in my ensuite bathroom instead. This already got us off to a bad start, but things only got worse. She went on to demand my dad remove all of his memories of my mother, memories which she herself gave to him. My dad ended up giving in to her despite protesting at first. She has even gone as far as banning the mention of my mother around her, as she does not want to hear about her at all. All of this makes me feel super alienated from my stepmother, and I want no part in her life. Things got from bad to ugly about a month ago when I came home from my maternal grandmother's with a new watch. The watch looks expensive and it looks bougie, and it was a watch I had only found out about myself that day. My grandmother told me it was a family heirloom and the tradition is to pass it down to the daughter after death, and she was going to pass it to my mom soon. But now that my mom is gone, it will be passed to me. My grandmother said that she wanted me to have it now, as it is usually passed to the daughter after the death of the mother, and even though my grandmother was not dead, my mother was, and that it was right to have it passed to me now. When my stepmother saw the watch, she kind of flipped out. She knows a bit about watches as her father collects them, and she was able to spot that this one was of high value. We got into an argument about it over dinner. She asked me where I got it, and I explained the story of the watch to her. She then offered to buy it off me for $1,000, and I declined, saying it was priceless to me. She upped her offer to $2,000, then $3,000, then when I said no, $7,500, she flipped out. She told me that I was an idiot for holding on to a silly watch when I could have so much money. I screamed at her, saying this was yet another example of her trying to remove my mother from my life and I will not let her take the watch. My father stayed quiet for this whole dinner as I excused myself to go upstairs. As I was walking up, she said she's going to have my watch one way or another. I heard them arguing later, but I did not make many details out. I thought my stepmother had dropped the watch as she had not brought it up for a while, but it turns out that she had completely gone behind my back and took matters into her own hands. I came home 3 days ago to find a brand new car in the driveway and I questioned my dad as to who bought it. He told me it was my stepmother's, and I thought that was that. Well, when I was getting ready to go out for food with my boyfriend later, I wanted to wear the watch and so I went looking for it. After being unable to find it after looking through every place I could have put it, I thought about the possibility of my stepmother taking it, her words a month ago ringing in my ears. It was a shot in the dark, but I went up to my dad and stepmom and started accusing her of stealing it. As I said, it was a shot in the dark, but my stepmom instantly went into denial mode and my dad looked flustered. Seeing this was no longer a shot in the dark, I started seriously pressing while hoping this was not true. They kept denying, but I relentlessly kept pestering them over and over until my dad admitted it. My stepmother started seething at my dad for admitting it, and I started yelling immediately at her. She defended herself, saying she needed a new car, and I flipped out even more. Her car was perfectly functioning. She had no way to defend herself other than telling the truth, which was that she wanted the watch gone because she did not want me to be bonded with my mother. She went on to break down into crocodile tears and cry about how she wanted to feel like a mother, but the things I do make her feel like she'll never be my mother. I responded saying that she's right, she's never be my mother, and went upstairs. My dad didn't talk to me that day. He and Stepmonster haven't spoken to me in the last 3 days as they believe what I said is disgusting and disrespectful. However, I am not going down without a fight. Tomorrow during the night, my friends and I will egg her car, stick feathers on it, cover the inside of it in manure, honey, we might toss some spiders and insects into it, we might slash some tires and car seats. There is no way she will get away with this. Also, I have found whom she sold the watch to, and it was her father, who I have only met once. He seems nice though. I plan to try to get the watch back from him.